Chapter 1 Part 3. Your son is amongst those 2.5% of the world's population who have an IQ of more than 150. With this level of intelligence, whatever he does may be extraordinary, but not unexpected. Salah had been at the international school for only a week when Sikandar Usman and his wife had been called over by the school administration. The school psychologist had informed them about Salah's various IQ tests in which his performance and score had amazed his teachers and also the psychologist. He was the only child in the school with such a high IQ, and very soon he became the focus of everyone's attention. During his meeting with Mr. and Mrs. Usman, the psychologist got another opportunity to dig out more information about Salah's childhood. He had been studying Salah's case with much interest, which was personal rather than professional. It was the first time he had come across such an IQ level. Sikandar Usman remembered well that when Salah was just 2 years old, he was remarkably fluent in his speech, unlike other boys of his age, and very often he came up with things that left him and his wife wondering. One day he was speaking to his brother on the phone while watching TV, and Salah was playing nearby. After the call ended, Sikandar saw Salah pick up the phone and say, "Hello, uncle, this is Salah." Sikandar watched him as he happily chatted away. "I am well. How are you?" Sikandar thought he was play acting. The next sentence made him sit up. "Baba is right here, watching TV." "No, he did not call, I called you." "Salah, who are you talking to?" asked Sikandar. "Uncle Shahnawaz," he replied. Sikandar took the phone from him. He thought Salah may have dialed at random or else pressed the redial button. "Salah has dialed the number, I'm sorry," he apologized to his brother. "How could he do that? Isn't he too young?" His brother was surprised. "He probably pressed the redial button accidentally." Sikandar switched off the phone and put it back in place. Salah, who was quietly listening to this conversation, went and picked up the phone again. Sikandar looked at him as he expertly dialed Shahnawaz's number, just as an adult would. He was shocked. He did not expect a 2-year-old to do this. He reached out to disconnect the call. "Salah, do you know Shahnawaz's number?" he asked. "Yes," came the calm reply. "What is it?" Salah rattled it off. Sikandar stared at him. He did not think Salah knew how to count, let alone remember a string of digits. "Who taught you this number?" "I learned it myself." "How?" "You just dialed it." Salah looked at him. "Do you know how to count?" "Yes." "How far can you count?" "Till 100. "Show me how." Like a machine, Salah counted from 1 to 100, in one breath. Sikandar could feel knots in his stomach. "I am going to dial a number now, and when I disconnect you call the same number," he said. "Okay." Salah was enjoying this game. Sikandar dialed a number, then switched off the phone. Salah immediately took the receiver and dialed the same number as confidently as his father had. Sikandar's head was spinning. Salah could remember any numbers that he dialed, and could then dial them accurately. He had a photographic memory. Sikandar called his wife. "I haven't taught him numbers," she said. "Yesterday, I just set out the numbers 1 to 100. But I did get him some books a few days ago." Sikandar asked Salah to count to 100, this he did while his mother watched in amazement. Convinced that the child was far ahead in intelligence for his age, they enrolled him in school much earlier than they had his siblings. He excelled in school. This child needs your special attention, because compared to children of average intelligence, such children have a more sensitive and complicated nature. If he has a good upbringing, he will be an asset to your family, indeed to the country. Sikandar Usman and his wife listened with pride to the psychologist, who was a foreigner. They began to give Salah preferential treatment at home. He became the most beloved and favorite child, and they were very proud of his achievements. At school, he was promoted to the next class after just one term, and then again at the end of the term he was promoted yet again. Sikandar was perturbed. He did not want Salah to be sitting for his O-levels and A-levels at the age of 8 and 10. Considering the speed of his progress, this seemed quite likely. "I would like you to let my son spend a full year in class, before he is promoted to the next level." I do not want him to race through his academic career in school at this abnormal speed. You can increase his subjects and activities, but let him progress normally towards promotion. So, Sala was not moved up midterm, his talents and energy were channeled into sports and other extracurricular activities. Chess, tennis, golf and music interested him the most, and he took an active part in whatever happened in school. If he did not participate in something, it was only because he did not find it challenging enough. Javiria, give me Professor Imtinen's notes, will you? Mama asked Javiria, who was studying. Javiria handed her a notebook, which she began to leaf through it. Javiria continued with her reading, but suddenly turned to Mama, as if she had remembered something. Why have you stopped taking notes during lectures? Mama looked up. I would if I could understand them. What do you mean? You don't understand Professor Imtinen's lectures? Javiria was surprised. He's such a good teacher. Did I say he wasn't? It's just that, Mama trailed off, distracted. She turned back to the notebook. Javiria looked at her closely. Aren't you getting absent-minded lately? Are you disturbed about something? She put away her book, her tone was caring. Disturbed? Mama muttered. No. You have dark circles under your eyes. Last night, I think it was 3 o'clock, when I woke up, you had not yet slept. I was studying, Mama replied defensively. No, you weren't. Your book was in front of you, but your thoughts were somewhere else. Is there a problem? What problem could there be? Then why have you become so quiet? Javiria ignored Mama's attempts to stall the conversation. Now, why should I be at a loss for words? Mama tried to smile. I'm as talkative as ever. It's not just me, but others too have noticed that you have been disturbed, Javiria said seriously. It's nothing, just the usual tension because of studies. I don't believe you. After all, we're all together, you cannot be any more tense than us. Javiria shook her head. And Mama sighed, she was getting fed up with this. Is everything all right at home? Yes, absolutely fine. Have you quarreled with Ashad? Why would I quarrel with him? Mama responded in the same tone. But there can still be differences and Mama cut her off in mid-sentence. When I am telling you that there's no problem, why can't you believe me? In all these years, what have I not shared with you, or what do you not know about me? Then why are you questioning me as if I were a criminal? Mama was losing her temper. Javiria was confused. Of course, I believe you. I thought you were holding back because I might worry. That's all. Javiria, somewhat contrite, got up and went back to her table and resumed reading her book. After some time she yawned and turned towards Mama. She was sitting up, her back to the wall and notebook in hand, but her eyes were fixed on the wall in front. He parked the car some distance away from the bridge across the canal. He opened the boot and took out a sack and a length of rope and moved towards the bridge, dragging the sack behind him. Some passers-by saw him, but they did not stop. Once on the bridge, he pulled off his shirt and flung it into the water. In a few moments the shirt was swept away by the flow. His tall, athletic frame, clad in dark blue jeans, was a handsome sight. His eyes were inscrutable. He could have been anywhere between 19 to 29 years of age, but his height and appearance made him look much older. Holding on to one end of the rope, he threw it over the bridge till it hit the water. Then he started tightly winding and knotting the rope in his hand around the mouth of the sack till he had used it all up. Now, he pulled back the length of the rope, leaving aside about 3 feet, standing with his feet together, he firmly tied them with this length. Next, he made 2 loops with the remaining rope and hopped onto the railing of the bridge, and then passing his hands through the loops behind his back, he pulled the knots and tied up his hands too. A smile of satisfaction hovered on his lips. Taking a deep breath, he threw himself backwards over the bridge. His head hit the water sharply and he was submerged to the waist, head down and hands tied behind his back, dangling from the rope tied to the weighted sack above. He held his breath and tried to keep his eyes open underwater, but the canal was murky and the silt stung his eyes. He felt as if his lungs would burst, and when he breathed in, the water entered his body through his nose and mouth. He began to flap about helplessly. He tried but could not use his arms to raise himself up from the water. Gradually, his movements slowed. Some people who had seen him jump off the bridge ran to the railing, shouting. The rope was still shaking. They did not know what to do. There was no visible movement under the water. His legs appeared to be still. A crowd gathered, looking with fear at the lifeless body. The water swung him like a pendulum, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. "Mama, get ready quickly," called Rabia, taking her clothes from the closet and flinging them on the bed. "Get ready? What for?" Mama looked at her, surprised. "We're going shopping." "Come with us." Rabia moved fast as she ironed her clothes. "No, thanks. I don't want to go anywhere." Mama lay back on her pillow, her forearm shielding her eyes. "What do you mean by, I don't want to go anywhere? Who's asking you, anyway?" "I'm telling you," Rabia continued in the same tone. "And I'm telling you that I am not going," replied Mama without moving. "Zainab's coming too, the whole group is going, and we'll go to the movies when we are done shopping." Mama looked up. "Zainab's coming along?" "Yes, we'll pick her up on the way." Mama became thoughtful. "You are getting duller by the day." Mama, Rabia's tone was piqued. "You've stopped going out with us. What on earth is happening to you?" "Nothing. I am just too tired today and want to sleep," Mama said, looking at Rabia. After a while Javiria came in and she too tried to persuade Mama, but there was just one refrain from her: "I am too tired, I want to sleep." Unable to coax Mama outdoors, the girls grumbled as they left her behind. As they picked up Zainab on the way, Javiria realized that she had left her wallet behind in the hostel. "We'll have to go back for my wallet," said Javiria. When they got to the hostel, they were shocked to find the room locked. "Where's Mama?" Rabia was surprised. "Don't know, where could she have gone, locking up the room like this?" "She'd said she wanted to sleep," said Javiria. "Could she be in someone else's room?" wondered Rabia. For the next few minutes, they looked for Mama in their friends' rooms, but there was no sign of her. Could she have gone out? A sudden thought struck Rabia. "Let's check with the warden," said Javiria, and they went to see him. "Yes, Mama went out a while ago," the warden confirmed. Rabia and Javiria exchanged looks, speechless. "She said she'd return by the evening," the warden informed them. They came out of the warden's room. "Where could she have gone?" "She refused to accompany us, saying she was tired, she wanted to sleep, was unwell, and then she goes off like this." Rabia was really annoyed. It was quite late at night when they returned. Mama was in the room and welcomed them back, smiling. "Looks like you've done loads of shopping," she said, looking at their bags and parcels. They did not reply, putting down their shopping. They stared at her. "Where were you?" asked Javiria. Mama got a jolt. "I came back to get my wallet and you weren't here. The room was locked. I went after you both." "What do you mean?" "I changed my mind when you left, so I went to Zainab's as you were going to pick her up. But her chowkidar said that she had left with you, so I came back. I just stopped on the way to get some books," explained Mama. "See, we'd told you to come along, but you refused. Then, like a fool, you traipsed behind us. We were getting suspicious about you," said Rabia as she took her purchases out of their bags. She seemed relieved. Mama did not reply, she just smiled at them when they showed her their shopping. "Your name?" "I don't know." "What did your parents name you?" "Go ask my parents." Silence. "What do people call you? Boys or girls?" "Boys. They call me by many names." "Mostly what?" "Daredevil." More silence. "And girls?" "They too have many names for me." "What name do they usually call you?" "I can't tell you that, it's too personal." Silence and then a deep breath and silence again. "Can I give you a suggestion?" "What?" "Why don't you try to find out something about me that neither you nor I knew before? That white file on the table to your right has all my particulars. Why are you wasting your time?" By the light of his table lamp, the psychoanalyst observed the young man lying on the couch. He kept moving his feet from left to right. His face was calm and he wore an expression that seemed to say that the session with the psychoanalyst was a waste of time. The room was cool and dark, and as the boy spoke, he looked around the room. He was a dilemma for the psychoanalyst. He had a photographic memory, his IQ level was 150, he had an outstanding academic record throughout, he had won the President's Gold Medal for golf for the third time running, and this was his third attempt at suicide. His desperately worried parents had brought him to the psychoanalyst. The boy belonged to one of the few prestigious and extremely wealthy families of the country. He was the fourth of 5 siblings, 4 brothers and a sister. 2 brothers and his sister were older than him. His parents doted on him because of his intelligence and capabilities, yet in the last 3 years he had tried to kill himself 3 times. The first time was when he was speeding on his bike in the wrong direction on a one-way road and had lifted his hands off the handlebar. The cop behind him had seen him doing this. He was lucky that when he crashed into a car, he was thrown over another and landed on the other side of the road. He suffered a few broken ribs and a fractured arm and leg. Even though the police officer had seen this happening, his parents believed it was an accident. He had told them that he had mistakenly entered the one-way street. The next time, a full year later, he had tied himself up and jumped into the canal. People on the bridge had saved him by pulling him up by the rope he had used. This time there were several witnesses, but his parents still could not believe that he had attempted suicide. Salah claimed that some boys had stopped his car near the bridge, tied him up, and thrown him over, and the way he was tied, it did seem as if someone else had done it. For the next few weeks, the police kept searching for boys whose appearance matched the description given by Salah. Usman Sikandar hired a guard to be with Salah, day and night. But the third time he could not deceive his parents. He ground a large quantity of sedatives and swallowed them. The effect was such that even after a stomach wash, it took him a long time to recover. This time, there was no mistaking what Salah had done. The cook had witnessed him grinding the pills, adding them to a glass of milk, and gulping down the whole. Tayyaba and Sikandar were in a state of shock. They thought of the previous 2 incidents and regretted that they had believed his stories. The entire household was upset and the news spread to the school, in their neighborhood and to the whole family. He could no longer deny that he had attempted suicide, but he was not willing to explain why, neither to his brothers and sister and nor to his parents. Sikandar had intended to send Salah abroad after his A-levels, as he had his other 2 sons. He knew that getting admission was not a problem for Salah, he would even be able to get a scholarship. But all his plans seemed to have gone up in smoke. And, on the advice of his friend, he sent Salah to a psychoanalyst. "Very well, Salah, we'll keep our discussion to the point. Why do you want to die?" Salah shrugged. "Who told you I want to die? You have made 3 attempts at suicide. There's a great difference between trying and dying. It's a coincidence that you have been saved all 3 times, otherwise, you had left nothing to chance. Look, what you call an attempted suicide is not what I intended, I just wanted to know the pain of dying, how it feels." The psychoanalyst watched his face as he very calmly clarified his purpose. "And why do you want to experience the pain of dying?" "Just like that, call it curiosity." He took a deep breath and looked at this brilliant young man who was now staring at the ceiling. "So your curiosity was not satisfied with 1 attempt?" "Oh, I passed out then, I was unconscious, so I could feel nothing. The next time too, and this time too, I could not feel it." He shook his head. "So you'll try again for the 4th time?" "Certainly. I want to know how it feels to experience the furthest limits of pain." "What do you mean?" "Like ecstasy is the furthest limit of joy, but I don't understand what comes after ecstasy. And so it is with pain, there must be some level of pain beyond which one cannot go." "I don't get it." "Suppose you're watching a striptease, there's loud music, you're drinking, and you've also taken drugs, you're dancing, and slowly you lose your senses, you're in ecstasy, where are you then? What are you doing? You don't know, all you know is that you like it very much, whatever it is." When I go abroad for my vacations, I go to such bars with my cousins. My problem is that unlike them, I never get wild with joy, I'm never ecstatic. I don't get turned on like they do, and it makes me unhappy. I thought that if I cannot cross the limits of happiness, then perhaps I could go to the limits of pain, but I couldn't. He looked very disappointed. Why do you waste your time on such things? You have such a fantastic academic record. Please, please, do not start harping about my intelligence. I know what I am. Sala's tone was one of resignation. I am sick of hearing my praises. The psychoanalyst watched him for a while. Why don't you set a goal for yourself? I have. What? I have to try suicide once again. He was completely serene. Are you depressed about something? Not at all. Then why do you want to die? Shall I start all over again, to tell you that I do not want to die? That I am trying to do something else? He was bored sick. It was back to square one. The psychoanalyst fell quiet for a while. Are you doing all this because of some girl? Sala turned in surprise to look at him. Because of a girl? Yes, some girl you are very fond of and would like to marry. He burst out into loud, uncontrolled laughter. My God! You mean I would kill myself for some girl? He laughed. In love with a girl and kill myself, too funny. The psychoanalyst had several such sessions with Sala, and the result was always the same. He had no clue. My advice is that you not send him abroad, instead, keep him here and keep a close eye on him. Perhaps he does this to attract attention. This was his suggestion to Sala's parents after several months. As a result, instead of sending him abroad for higher studies, Usman enrolled Sala in one of Islamabad's top institutions. He thought that if Sala was kept close to the family, he would not attempt suicide again. Sala did not show any reaction to this decision, just as he had not shown any reaction to his earlier decision of sending him abroad. After the last session with the doctor, Usman Sikandar and Tayyaba sat Sala down in their bedroom and had a long talk with him. They listed all the luxuries they had provided for him over the past so many years. They told him about their expectations of him and their love and affection for him. He sat before them, expressionless, chewing gum mechanically and watching his father's distress and his mother's tears. Frustrated, Usman finally asked him, "What is it that you lack? What more do you want? Tell me." Sala thought for a while and said, "A sports car." "Very well, I'll import a sports car for you, but don't ever do such a thing again, okay?" Usman Sikandar felt better. Sala nodded in affirmation. Tayyaba wiped away her tears and drew a sigh of relief. When Sala left the room, Usman turned to his wife. Lighting a cigar, he said, "Tayyaba, you will have to cut down on your activities and keep an eye on him. Try to spend some time with him daily." She nodded in assent. Wasim saw Mama sitting out in the lawn. She had the earphones on and was listening to something on her Walkman. He slipped up very quietly behind her and grabbed the earphones off her, but she swiftly turned off the Walkman. "What are you listening to, sitting here all by yourself?" he said in a loud voice as he stuck the earphones into his ears. Mama had already switched off the cassette. She got up and pulled at the earphones. "This is the height of bad manners, Wasim, behave yourself," she was furious. Wasim did not let go of the earphones, and Mama's anger had no effect on him. "I want to hear what you were listening to, what's rude about that? Switch on the cassette." "I wasn't sitting here with this for your listening pleasure." Annoyed, she detached the headphones. "Here, take these and get lost." She sat down again, firmly gripping the Walkman. Wasim felt that she seemed somewhat disturbed, worried. But why should she be worried? He shrugged off the thought. Pulling another chair, he sat down and put the earphones on the table before her. "Here, take these and don't be so angry. Carry on with whatever you were listening to," he said, trying to placate her. "No, I don't want to listen to anything now. You can keep them," and Mama did not reach for the earphones. "By the way, what was it?" "What could it be?" she replied in the same tone. "Ghazals, perhaps," wondered Wasim. "You know, Wasim, you share many traits with old women. For example? For example, nitpicking. And spying on others without the least embarrassment. And do you know how selfish you are gradually becoming? Wasim replied likewise. And Mama did not mind it. So now you know how selfish I am, she replied with a smile this time. You are so silly that I couldn't believe you'd come to this conclusion. If you're trying to embarrass me, then don't bother, I'm not going to be ashamed. He was being bullheaded. But still, it is one's duty to try. Aren't you being too smart today? Wasim looked at her closely. Possibly. Not possibly, certainly. Anyway, it's better than that monastic silence you adopt on your return to Islamabad. What monastic silence? Mama responded. You've changed a fair bit since you went to Lahore. I'm under the pressure of studies. Everybody feels that pressure, Mama, but you seem obsessed, Wasim said, interrupting her. Let's not fall into this silly argument. Tell me, what are you doing these days? Having a ball, he was rocking his chair. That's what you do all year long. I'm asking you about any special interests now. Just hanging out with friends. You should know what I do once the papers are over. You're forgetting everything, Mama. Wasim looked at her somewhat sadly. I asked you this in the hope that you may have improved, but obviously my question was redundant, replied Mama. You should know that I am a year older than you, so please wind up your allegations. He was trying to rub in his being older. How are things with this boy next door? Mama suddenly remembered something. Choo-choo? Somewhat strange, I'd say, shrugged Wasim. He's a weird chap. If he's in a good mood, he'll exalt you to the seventh heaven. If he's in a bad mood, he'll dump you into the gutter. Most of your friends are like that, she said with a smile. Birds of a feather flock together. No, that's not the case. At least, I do not behave the way Choo-choo does. Wasn't he going abroad? Mama asked Wasim. Yes, he was supposed to, but I'm not sure. I think his parents don't plan to send him. His appearance is very odd, looks like he's from some hippie tribe or will be. Have you seen him lately? I saw him yesterday, when I was coming home. He was going out then, there was a girl with him. A girl? Was she wearing jeans? Wasim was suddenly interested. Yes. And she had mushroom-cut hair? She was fair, Wasim snapped his fingers with a smile. Ursa, his girlfriend. The last time you named someone else, said Mama, staring at him. The last time? When was that? Wasim wondered. 7 or 8 months ago, when you spoke to his girlfriend. Oh, that was Sheba. Wonder where she's now. Then he had a mobile number painted on the rear screen of his car, laughed Mama as she repeated the number. You mean you remember the number? Laughed Wasim. How could I forget? I've never seen a mobile number written so boldly, and that too on a car. She laughed again. I think I'll put my mobile number on my car too, he said, running his fingers through his hair. Which mobile? The one you haven't bought yet? She scoffed. I'm buying one this month. Then be prepared for Baba's wrath, if you have the number painted on the car, he'll be the first one to call you. That is what holds me back, Wasim said with resignation. It's best for you that rather than have your bones broken, you should keep your emotions under control. Besides, there are other issues. What if Samaya gets to know about your mobile connections? Wasim cut her short. What will she do? I'm not scared of her. I know you're not scared of her, but she's the only sister of 6 brothers, if you please. While you plan to get engaged to her, do consider the pros and cons of consequences that may arise from any untoward action on your part, and Mama was bent on teasing him. Alas, what can I do now? My fate is sealed, Wasim replied with a mock sigh. I should never buy a cell phone as it will be of no use to me, at least, not for finding a girlfriend. He began to rock on his chair again. Better late than never, but you have seen sense, Mama said, as she reached for earphones on the table. What was it that you were listening to? Wasim remembered as he saw her pick up the earphones. Nothing special, she replied, putting off the question. What happens next? Wait for the next part. Thank you.